Whispers in the Abandoned Church. I grew up in a small town where not much ever happened. Boredom was a constant companion, and we had to be creative to entertain ourselves. We used to sneak into old warehouses, daring each other to go the farthest without a flashlight, or climb the rusted water tower on the edge of town, just to prove we weren't scared. Once, we even spent a night in an abandoned train car, convinced it was haunted, only to be terrified by the sound of raccoons rummaging through our snacks. But nothing ever felt truly dangerous until we found the church. In high school, my friends and I had a peculiar hobby exploring abandoned places. Old houses, decrepit factories, forgotten train stations, but none of them compared to the church. St. Eliza's Church had been abandoned for decades. It sat on the outskirts of town, hidden behind a crumbling stone wall and overgrown trees. The stories about it were endless: rituals gone wrong, sightings of shadowy figures, strange symbols etched into the walls. But for us, it was just the perfect place for late-night thrills. One chilly autumn evening, my friends and I decided to visit the church again. There were 6 of us: me, Jake, Leah, Mark, Sophie, and Danny. The air was crisp, and the leaves crunched under our feet as we made our way past the rusted gate. Armed with flashlights and bravado, we climbed through a broken window on the side, since the main doors had long been sealed shut. Inside, the church was eerily silent, except for the occasional drip of water echoing through the vast, empty hall. The stained glass windows were shattered, casting jagged patterns of moonlight on the dusty floor, resembling twisted claws reaching out, or distorted faces frozen mid-scream. The fractured light seemed to shift unnervingly, as if the shadows themselves were alive, creeping ever so slightly when no one was looking. The pews were overturned, and remnants of old hymn books lay scattered, their pages yellowed and brittle. We made our way to the basement, the place that always gave us the biggest rush. The staircase creaked under our weight, and the air grew colder with each step. The basement was divided into 3 rooms: a large open area, a smaller room with a rusted metal door, and another with just a broken doorframe. We started in the large room, laughing and joking to mask our unease. Old furniture, broken chairs, and random debris littered the space. But then, we heard a door slamming shut, hard. The sound reverberated through the basement, sending a jolt of fear through all of us. We froze, flashlights darting in every direction. "Probably the wind," Jake whispered, though his voice lacked conviction. 3 of us decided to investigate while the others stayed back. As we approached the rusted door, a strange metallic smell filled the air. It was slightly ajar, creaking softly as if recently disturbed. Pushing it open revealed a small, windowless room. The walls were covered in faded symbols, crudely drawn with something dark and flaking. In the center of the room was an old wooden chair, tipped over, its legs splintered and one armrest partially broken as if someone had struggled violently against it. The ropes, frayed and stained with dark, reddish-brown marks, were still tightly knotted around the arms, their fibers stiff as though soaked and dried repeatedly. The seat had deep gouges carved into the wood, like fingernail scratches etched in desperation, hinting at a story we dared not imagine. But what caught our attention was the mirror on the far wall, cracked and stained. On its surface, smeared handprints trailed down like someone had desperately clawed at it. The marks were fresh. My heart raced. This wasn't left over from decades ago. Suddenly, a faint whisper echoed from the other room, soft and brittle, like the dry rustle of dead leaves scraping across concrete. It carried a strange, hollow quality, as if the walls themselves were breathing out fragments of words lost to time. The sound sent an involuntary shiver down my spine, feeling both distant and impossibly close, like it was slipping just beneath the surface of my skin. We spun around, flashlights cutting through the darkness. There was no one there. But the whisper came again, clearer this time, though we couldn't make out the words. We didn't wait to find out more. Panic took over, and we bolted up the stairs, stumbling over each other in our rush to escape. The night air never felt so welcoming as we burst outside, gasping for breath. But as we reached the gate, Sophie stopped, her face pale. "Where's Danny?" We thought he was with us. He wasn't. Terrified but unable to leave him behind, we had to go back. The church seemed different now, as if it was waiting. Inside, the silence was deafening. We called his name, our voices trembling. Eventually, we found him in the small room with the mirror, standing perfectly still, staring at his reflection. His flashlight lay on the floor, flickering. His lips moved slightly, whispering something we couldn't hear. When we shook him, he snapped out of it, eyes wide with terror. He didn't remember how he got there. We never spoke about that night again. But it stayed with me, like a shadow stitched to the edges of my memories. Even now, the faintest creak of old wood or the sudden whisper of wind against glass sends a jolt of fear through me. I find myself avoiding mirrors in dark rooms, afraid of what might be staring back. That night carved a hollow space in my mind, a place where fear still echoes, refusing to be forgotten. Danny changed after that, quieter, withdrawn. The rest of us drifted apart over the years. But sometimes, when I pass by the outskirts of town, I swear I can still hear faint whispers riding the autumn wind.